Hey guys, Jeff with Westcott Designs. So I put up a post yesterday on Facebook asking for someone to donate their new 22 TRD Pro. I know that they were out getting delivered to the dealerships and to the customers in the last week or so. And we've had a lot of people call and say, hey, I want your lift kit. I want to get it in my truck. How long before it's available? And I didn't have it available because I didn't get a truck. We were supposed to get a truck. We didn't get our truck. So I put this post up looking for anybody to volunteer their truck, and a gentleman from Texas said, hey, I will drive my truck over to you tomorrow, and I just picked it up just now. I'll drive it over to you tomorrow. I'll leave it with you. I'll fly home, and you can do what you need to do to prototype, test, whatever. So he didn't drive it over. He had his girlfriend drive it over, which was really nice of her, willing to drive. We just got in the truck. It's got 810 miles from her road trip from Texas to drive over here to have us have him be the first one to receive our lift kit in this truck. So pretty excited about doing this. A lot of people say, you know, well, how do you know you're going to set it up right and this and that? Hey, I've been doing these lifts since 2015. It's not just making lift and making the car go up in the air and stuff. There's a lot that goes to it. There's a lot behind it. There's the amount of preload that you're going to add to the spring to create the lift. You don't want to put too much preload on the spring because you don't want to lift the truck too much and then take away from the ride quality. And that's really what we're all about. We want to find the best ride we possibly can on this truck, but maximize the lift without compromising the ride quality. So yes, could you lift the truck higher? Absolutely. But we get to that point where we decide that the angles of the axles, the CVs, and also the steering arms, we're trying to really make this thing so it's reliable, so it's not going to give the consumer any problems, that our kit is not going to be what causes something to fail. Our kit, when we talk about our lift kits in the trucks, our lift kit has never caused anybody's lift to ever fail or suspension to fail or anything like that. Our lift is different than your traditional spacer lift that goes on the top of the strut and pushes it down. We don't believe in lifting a truck that way. It's not the proper way to lift a truck. When we've talked about this in the past, that when you lift a truck with a spacer lift, you're pushing the strut assembly downward. Then what happens when you're compressing the suspension, the strut itself bottoms out before it ever hit the bump stop. And with all that weight coming down on the strut, causes it to fail. It actually causes them over time, if you do off-road with it, it's going to cause them to snap off. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. When I worked for Toyota, we saw this numerous times and happen all the time. But the companies look at that part there that's done to the truck, is that less than 10% of the people that are out there are going to off-road with their truck with a spacer lift. And on top of that, less than 1% of those people probably have failure. We're just not about building parts that are going to fail. Everything we build has a purpose. And so I'm super passionate about this. I'm super prideful about it. So yes, I get upset when people talk about spacer lifts and compare our lift to a spacer lift. Yes, is it a round collar? Does it go on the spring? Do you want to call it a spacer? Okay, yes, it could be called a spacer, but it works the exact same way a coilover does. A coilover, you'd make the adjustment on it, you put preload on the spring, and in return gives you lift. Our collar is doing the exact same thing, works the exact same principles, except for we're not making it adjustable. And our spring, when the truck travels full travel down, is at the limit of the strut itself, so it's not overextending the suspension any farther than it was designed from the factory. And when the suspension is completely compressed, it's still using the factory bump stops as it was designed. So we are not taking away or adding any to upward or downward travel. We're just creating lift to the truck to get the truck up a little bit higher, to increase ground clearance, to allow for larger tire size, to add for a little more clearance in the wheel wells. So now let's get into this truck. So I went around all the way around the truck, and we suggest this to every customer when they're going to lift their truck. Do it before you lift the truck, because some people will say, hey, I lifted my truck and it doesn't sit level. Well, it may not be my lift that is in your truck that has caused it to sit level or not sit level. So I'm going to tell you that this truck does not sit level, and we took all the measurements. So it would have been an unfortunate circumstance that if somebody had put my lift in the truck or our lift in the truck and got it in there and said, hey, it's lower on one side than the other. Well, it wasn't the lift. In this case, it won't be the lift when we lift this truck. This truck here is 24.25 on this rear passenger corner, okay? 24.25. And where I'm getting that measurement from is from the center of the axle here to the bottom edge of the wheel well right here. So 24.25 right here. I just checked the gas gauge. The gas tank is on this side of the truck. The gas gauge is 3/4 of a tank. So if anything, it should be lower on this side. not lower on the driver's side. So then I get up here, same spot, measuring from the center of the axle here to the bottom edge of the wheel well here. I'm 22 3/4 here on this front fender, okay? We'll move around to the front. As you can see, as we move around the front of this truck, you can see all the bugs on the front of it. This car was driven to us. We brought it in the shop here. We took measurements on it. We're gonna get it torn down here in a few minutes. But yeah, you can definitely see it has been on a road trip. So no turbo issues, no actuator problems. Truck drove great, had no problems, the customer said. So this side to this other side, 22 3/4 right here on driver's front corner. Measurements in the same place. So then we get back here to the back driver's rear corner. We're 23 3/4 from the bottom edge of the wheel well to the center of the axle. So we are a 1/2 inch lower on the driver's side than we are on the passenger side. Normally on Toyotas, the gas tank was on the driver's side. It now has been moved over to the passenger side. So you would think, okay, that's a normal thing. They do sit a little bit lower on the driver's side because of the gas tank and because of the driver in the car. But in this case, that's not the case. So I just want people to know, take your measurements before you lift your truck. It is very important that you do this. So, we're gonna do, because I know a lot of people are gonna ask, we're gonna post this video up on YouTube. And a lot of people are going to ask, hey, how does it sit? How tall is it with this tire size? How far do the tires stick out? And what's it with 35s and what's it with 37s? We are going to fit a couple different tire sizes on this truck and offsets on this truck. And we'll share those with you and share some of the different setups that we do on this truck, just so you can see some different layout on this truck for the consumer, as the consumer. So you can see if what's your look. Do you want to use the factory wheels with just a larger 35, or do you want to run the factory wheels with a 37 on it? We're going to show you what you need to do if you decide to go to 35 or 37. I don't know the offset of this wheel. I'm guessing this wheel is probably very much the same as the other wheels that Toyota has for offsets for the factory limiteds, platinums, SR5s, TRD off-roads. I'm guessing they're pretty close to the same offset just because of geometry and the way that they set their cars up. So we will try 35s on this. We'll see if we get any contact with the upper control arm at full steering lock. We'll let you know if you need to run a wheel shim if you decide to go 35s. We also will put a 295 on this truck. And with the 295, my guess is it's not going to rub, but just so you guys know that it clears fine with the 295. We also will be putting a 37 on this truck. We might even test fit a set of our Innovates on this truck. We actually, I don't know if you saw our last truck, it had red Innovates. We actually might put them on this truck just to see what they'll look like with the black and the red writing and everything on it, and just tie this whole truck in together. So we appreciate you watching our videos. Please reach out if you have any questions on any of this stuff, and we'll get back with you here in the next day or two once we get this truck set up the way we feel is safe for the road and a really nice ride, and it's good for the consumer. So thanks again for watching.